I didn't go to my mother's funeral to mourn, I went to make sure the casket was actually nailed shut. When the obituary was published in a local paper, it described my mother as a saint of the community, a devoted matriarch, and a beacon of kindness. Reading it felt like reading a fictional novel. The woman described on that page was a stranger to me. The woman I knew was a master of psychological warfare who had pitted her 7 children against one another like gladiators in a coliseum of her own making. She died on a Tuesday, and by Wednesday morning, I had already decided I wasn't going to play the grieving son. I was going to play the survivor. The morning of the service, the church was packed. People from all over the county had come to pay their respects to the woman who baked pies for the fire department and knitted blankets for the homeless. They didn't know that the money for the pies came from our stolen piggy banks, or that the blankets were made while she locked us in our rooms for quiet time that lasted 2 days. My siblings and I, all 7 of us, sat in the front row. We were estranged from her, and mostly from each other, for over a decade. But we had a group chat. We had a plan. The priest invited the children to speak. The congregation expected tears. They expected stories about her warm hugs and her cookies. I stood up first. I was wearing a bright, joyful tie, not the somber black the rest of the room wore. I walked to the podium, gripped the sides, and looked out at the sea of faces. My mother, I began, my voice steady, was a collector. She collected sympathy the way some people collect stamps. She birthed 7 children not because she had love to give, but because she needed 7 different sources of income and attention. A murmur went through the crowd. I saw the priest shift uncomfortably. You all knew the woman who volunteered at the soup kitchen. We knew the woman who moved us across state lines at 3 a.m. to avoid social workers. You knew the woman who smiled at the grocery store. We knew the woman who told my brother, Juan, that he was unlovable every single day until he believed it enough to run away at 16. You see a casket covered in flowers. I see a box that finally contains the chaos that ruined 7 lives. I stepped down. The silence was so heavy it felt physical. Then, my sister Renee stood up. She didn't go to the podium. She just stood by the pew and said, loudly and clearly, she kicked me out when I was 15 because I bought a birthday card for my father. She let me sleep under a bridge for 3 weeks and told the neighbors I was at a summer camp. Then Gabriel stood up. She told me my brothers hated me. She told them I was the favorite. She made sure we never spoke so we couldn't compare notes on the abuse. One by one, we stood. We didn't yell. We didn't scream. We just stated facts. Cold, hard, brutal facts about the foster care system, the beatings, the emotional manipulation, and the financial theft. The lady from the church choir looked like she was going to faint. The grieving friends started shifting in their seats, looking for an exit. By the time the last sibling sat down, the church was half empty. The people who stayed were the ones who actually cared about the truth, or perhaps they were just too shocked to move. We didn't stay for the burial. We didn't go to the reception. Instead, the 7 of us piled into 2 cars and drove to a diner on the edge of town. We ordered pancakes, bacon, and coffee. We laughed. We actually laughed. It wasn't the laughter of joy, but of release. For the first time in our lives, the monster wasn't under the bed or in the next room. She was in the ground. We realized that we had spent so many years trying to survive her that we hadn't learned how to be a family. But as we sat there, passing syrup and sharing stories about the lives we built in spite of her, we started to stitch the wounds shut. A week later, I received a letter from a woman who had been at the funeral. She wrote, I judged you when you started speaking. I thought you were cruel. But then I went home and called my own daughter, who I haven't spoken to in 5 years. I listened to her. Thank you for being brave enough to break the silence. We didn't mourn our mother that day. We celebrated the end of her reign. And honestly, it was the best family reunion we ever had.